This is Advisor 3.0, a show designed to help you as a financial advisor elevate your professional practice, transform your clients' lives, and take your business to the next level. I am Abraham Okusoya. Welcome to the show. There is no shortage of discussions about how broken the technology powering financial advice in the UK and elsewhere in the world is. But very, very few people are crazy enough to try to solve this problem. One of those crazy ones is Nicky Sevel. My guest today, she's the co-founder of Woven Advice. Nicky, welcome to Advisor 3.0.
Hello, Abraham. Thank you for that introduction. Thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I've seen Woven Advice at a number of events. You know, I follow you on LinkedIn, and you know, I've been fascinated by what you're building, and this is for me an opportunity to, you know, get to understand you and the business and what you're up to. So for the purpose of our listeners, tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you, how did the path lead you to, you know, co-founding Woven Advice?
Great. So it's been a long journey, and it's had lots of turns left and right, which I think most people can probably express they've had in their career. I started out as training as a financial planner over in Australia, and one of the things I noticed really early in my career is how much I loved helping everyone in the companies I worked with their tech. I think that's an early sign for probably anyone who might look to go into tech in the future. If you're that person who ends up fixing the IT problems in the office, it's a signal. So it's not a job that everyone loves. I think, you know, to be known by your family as the one that fixes the computer, but it's a good signal for what you should be doing. So I took a pivot. I took my financial planning qualifications and education and decided to move into the tech space. And moved across to the UK and worked for a well-known company. Do I admit it on here? Do I say it?
Please.
I worked
Iris?
for Iris. How did you guess? And, you know, I was brought over in a really exciting time when Iris had just bought Avello and had the ambitious target of migrating everyone from Advisor Office onto Xplan. And this was back in 2013 and 2014. And we're now in 2023 and Iris have finally achieved that goal. But I like to think of myself as one of the pioneers on that journey. So I guess that, you know, my tech career then, you know, kicked off from there. That was 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, I started helping financial planning businesses on their transformation journey with tech.
You spent about a decade or so at IRS. At what point did you decide that you were going to set up Woven?
For my sins, I did not stay at Iris for a decade. I stayed for about 5 years. And one of the reasons I left, and one of the passions that's been burning for, you know, the latter 5 years, is a way to help financial planners transform their practice and implement tech. You mentioned, sorry, I'll take a second. You mentioned early on in that introduction that you have to be, you know, crazy to take on tech in this industry because it's a bit of shambles. But I would like to, you know, put my hand up in the air and say, so many businesses don't even get to the point of experiencing, you know, tech for what it should be because there's so much more going on around their data, around their practice. our industry is full of fantastic entrepreneurial small businesses, but small businesses are very rarely given the tools, the enterprise tools that those big organizations get to invest in their data and their infrastructure and to get themselves in a position where they can benefit from the technology. And that's what I really discovered on this tech journey, on this journey at Iris. And so when I left Iris, I went to start, to find ways to try and solve these problems. And I started working for some startups, and I did a lot of consultancy, both with wealth managers and with tech companies, to slowly edge us towards solving this problem, to the point where I started up Woven Advice. And we started up last year. And our goal at Woven Advice is to help financial planning businesses transform their business, transform their data into a way that enables them to adopt new technology, experience efficiencies, reduce the cost of operations in their practice, and ultimately, start to become more profitable as businesses.
That's wonderful. I mean, no, absolutely great stuff. The thing I find is when you, as you did, and I had the privilege to do, when you work with advisors in a consultancy capacity, and you work with myriads of firms, you actually get to see how disjointed or fragmented the technology stack and the data is. And I guess, did you like I did, experience quite a great deal of frustration, saying to people, either the providers of the technology or advisors, to say, well, look, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do. This doesn't quite work. And you get tired and frustrated of keep telling people. And so you decide, actually, sod it, I'm just going to create a company or create a business that actually solves this problem for people.
I think that's 100% it. And that is what drives us, isn't it? Is that, in a consulting capacity, you really only have so much opportunity to help with change. You're helping deliver someone else's vision, but you're constantly saying, here are some workarounds. Oh, we can't do that. Oh, the technology can't do that. This is why you can't do X, Y, Z. And I think that's it when you're in a situation, or the type of person that gets fulfilled by actually helping people solve problems. Sitting in consultancy is not the right place. Building something yourself really is.
Indeed. All right. Okay. So I'm going to ask you that infuriating question that I got asked several times when I was setting up Timeline, which is, what problem are you actually trying to solve? Break it down for me.
Right. So we are trying to, I guess there's two parts to this question. We are trying to provide data liquidity for wealth managers and financial advisors. Now, the problem behind that illiquidity of data really stems from a number of things. And I think, this is why, again, as you said, who is crazy enough to solve this? Because it's such a big problem. It's so embedded in our industry. And it's not just talking about, people within a firm manually keying data in and let's say bringing errors into the business. It comes from integrations. It comes from technology adoption between, some of the biggest players in the field. There is, a problem that, involves data, but at every level of this industry. And a financial advisor, particularly an independent one, is right at the middle of that, because they're a consumer as much as they are a user of this data. And they are the ones that are collecting data from so many different sources, but in no position of power to actually do something about it. So the problem we're trying to solve is we're trying to help financial advisors get clean, reliable, full sources of data for their clients so that they can more efficiently run their practice.
So you did some work on the UK advice technology map, and there is a lot I disagree with on the way that you sliced the different players and what they do. I disagree with these things because it was very different, or different than the way that I I had done it. And so I'm thinking, who are these crazy people who disagree with Abraham, who dare to do
How dare
this?
we?
But the more I look at it, the more I see that there is actually a lot of underlining similarity, and so I will come back to this point about data. But the point is, from the work you've done, I did some similar previously, that basically try to divvy the type of technology that advisors are using into different categories. Okay. And so, you created this map, which is, looked at what kind of technology. I'm going to ignore the pre-sales. I know they're important, but I'm going to ignore the pre-sale, using industry type, generic technology out there. Then you have onboarding, which tend to be industry tools. Then you have advice, so that will be mostly cash flow modeling, product research. And so then you have the back office, you have, platforms in this picture. And I guess the question is, where does woven advice sit in all of this? Because you have client data in each of these tools. So is the idea that you're sitting in the middle of all of this somewhere?
So a spoiler, I actually have just recreated that map, and I have changed the categories. So I'll give a bit of
maybe I will agree with
so
it
I'll
this
send
time.
You the new one as an early viewer, if you don't mind, to assess it for me.
Please. Thank you.
But let's go back to the way I structured it in that document. So as you could probably see in the previous pages of that kind of summary of UK tech that I talked through, I was viewing it from a journey, an advice journey point of view. So if you're a financial advisor and you're looking through kind of understanding transformation at different parts of your business, then you shouldn't be thinking about the tool and what the tool does. You should be thinking about what your business is trying to achieve. So, when you're looking at onboarding, it's a specific stage in that journey. And I'll admit, putting, that version of the advice map was really, really challenging, because you have technology that does everything. They have things that do, things at the start, things at the end, things, let's say the portal and valuations aggregation, which, come hand in hand and are really important. But then how do you document that in a nice little journey and some pictures? So it was really challenging. And I actually, got a lot of feedback from different people saying, oh, I think I'm in the wrong box, or I should be in all of the boxes, because everyone has a different perspective. And so interestingly, what, the future version is actually breaking it into a look on the tools and then a look in the journey as two different things, because it does come down to what you're trying to achieve when you're assessing technology. And what it is you're trying to do. But to the second part of your question, where does woven advice fit? So, I mean, that's great. That is a great question. And I would like to say that we do fit in all of the boxes, because the data is what really sits underneath everything in the advice journey. In my new version, we've got a nice little box that talks about data and aggregation, because that is what we're focusing on. But I'm also really keen to set up a new category, which is something that we haven't, we talked a lot about the problem, but we haven't really talked about the solution. And one of those problems that we talked about was the fluidity of data and how you get it from one place to another, and that comes down to integrations. Now, we know that everyone likes to talk about integrations and moan about them. I think it was, we used to moan about the technology, but now we understand about integrations and APIs, so we want to talk about that. Now, we have taken the task upon ourselves to build integrations on behalf of providers in the UK, because we know that this needs to be fixed. It's a problem. Integrations are really challenging to build. They're really challenging to convince your company to invest into. They're really, really difficult to get on the top of the backlog. And every different company has so many reasons, things like tech debt and infrastructure, and reasons why they can't build these integrations themselves. So we have decided to come in and help with that integrations journey. And so I want to see on the advice map, on my future advice map, is that woven is the line between every one of those little logos that sit on the map. A new category.
Incredible stuff. So there's a couple of important points. I'm going to deviate. So one is integration. We'll come back to that. Second one is where woven actually sit today as the am I right to think of it as a data lake or a middleware? Is what you're doing basically sucking data, getting data from all these multiple sources where they currently reside, and bringing them into an environment that is easier and understandable for the advisor?
So it's close. We are not doing a data lake strategy, and the reason for that is that we aren't just bringing data from all different sources and chucking it into a lake to let people fish for it themselves. We are actually taking data, building out structured integrations, structured standardized integrations, which actually do something. So we are sorting the data ourselves. We're reformatting it. We're putting it into a data schema that it can be consumed by everyone in the market. And then we are providing an API. That means people can consume it as best they can, the way they want to. Or in the instance where we are building the integrations, we can actually make that data flow from one to the other. Now, the reason behind that is because a data lake strategy in an environment where the data is not reliable is a recipe for disaster. If you're taking bad quality data, sticking it in a lake or a pond or whatever size it is, then it's not really solving the problem. Firms have had decades worth of data that they're storing, whether it's however they're storing it, spreadsheets, paper, or in CRMs. How many advisors out there can put up their hand and say, I am completely confident that my data is accurate? And until you're at that point, a data lake strategy is a bit of a dream. So
no.
where you said,
sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I think your next suggestion around us being the middleware. Yeah, part of our solution is to become the middleware for that data transfer.
Understood. So as an advisor, what kind of data or metric? So once you've taken this data, what kind of data do you take? Is it essentially just client? Does it dovetail into business, metrics such as my revenue, my cost, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so quite early in our journey, we had a look at everything from an advisor's point of view, and we thought, if you were an advisor, do you want to buy data? No, because it is your data. You shouldn't be buying anything there. Do you want to buy integrations? Not really, because everyone you work with should be providing integrations in 2023, and at least by 2030 they will. And what is it as a financial advisor or a practice owner, what is it you want to know? Like, what is it that your data should be giving you? What is that incentive to improve the quality and give back to your practice? Because if it's just about employing people to clean the data so that things work slightly faster, then whatever. Well, I'm happy employing people that take a bit longer to do the reviews, etc., etc. So what we decided as our first, let's say, product that an advisor could actually see a tangible benefit from, not just data pipes and data running through the ecosystem. We said, what can we give back to them? And we decided that we needed to help financial advisors understand what that data can give them, and that's business metrics and management information. And we also know, having worked in the industry for such a long time, MI has always been a massive struggle from whatever software that they might be using, and for just the business on a whole, and that creates a legacy, a culture of not putting data analytics first or business intelligence first in any kind of business owner's mind, just because it was too difficult to get. So what we have built in our first Woven Advice product, Woven MI, as such, is taking our early integrations of data and presenting it into a dashboard that gives a new look on the information within that practice. And at these early stages, it's actually quite simple, because a simple representation is all that's really necessary. But all clients and all plan information, revenue information, and being able to cut it in any way you want without having to do data exports, VLOOKUPs, pivot tables, just to be able to get the metrics for your business, because that's what any business owner deserves. One of my favorite examples, you go into if you were running an e-commerce business, you might be using Shopify as your platform. Shopify has an app marketplace, and I went onto it to have a look at how many analytics dashboards you could get to understand what's going on in your business, how much you're selling per month, and what your trends are. There were 1,000 apps that people had built just to do analytics on your Shopify account.
Right.
And then, of course, I went into the IO App Store and looked for analytics, and it wasn't really a thing at all. So I think our industry has been let down by this, inability to understand basic MI, but not just that, it really is the data behind it. And so in building Woven MI, we know that it's going to be challenging. A lot of firms are going to, pull up a dashboard and go, those metrics don't look right. But that to us is that first stage in saying, this is what you could be getting. This is what you could be learning about your business. And this is where we need to get to. So our Woven MI will, track that journey of transformation, whether it's, just a small internal transformation or the whole industry as a whole, as the data gets better.
Powerful stuff. Thank you, Nicky. So I know that you looked at integrations. APIs or the lack thereof is a bugbear of mine.
I can imagine.
talk to me about the what you found when you looked at integrations within the advice tech space.
Okay, I'm gonna turn this one around just to start with, and tell a story, not even really a story, just an experience I've had. I've been product manager for a number of advice tech apps. Now, they weren't tech that I'd worked on from the beginning. I wasn't responsible for a lot of those early stages of development. Some of them I wish I had had. They're phenomenal products. But one of the experiences I had, and being so passionate about data portability and integrations, I come into managing a product, and I say, we need integrations. So this is an example to kind of, which you, Abraham, will know inside and out, but I think a lot of people don't really get this insight of the challenge to be able to convince an entire business, an entire product team, the C-suite of a technology company, that integrations is a business case that they should be spending their money on. I think I know for a fact that you guys are absolutely phenomenal with these business cases, and that you can see the benefit from doing this. But I think you're really in the minority because so many product providers will say, integrations, that's really expensive. I keep hearing, from my solutions architect that there's a lot of tech debt. We'll have to refactor something. If you don't know what that word means, then you're probably lucky. But to any tech business owner, it's one of the scariest words when one of your team tells you have to refactor something, almost rebuild it. But that that is what comes up in a workshop or in a meeting room when you're talking about building integrations and APIs. And so as much as I want to bash and complain about the APIs in the industry, I'm very realistic in understanding why they're a challenge, and I think why I like to talk about it so much is I think it is about education. It's about educating everyone on that decision, in that decision tree. Why integrations they're a necessity, they're a must-have, and if you as a tech provider do not have an API or a way that someone can integrate into your business, or even put your own integrations first, then you will never be able to make it in this industry, because it's a hygiene factor. It's something that is necessary. It was necessary a long time ago, but now it is critical.
I couldn't agree. I couldn't agree more. But you looked at integration, so talk to me about what you looked at. Existence of API, two-way integrations in the advice space. What did you find?
You're going to drag it out to me. Drag it out from me. It's not good. It is not good. I like the story of APIs. APIs is the standardization of the integration messaging service, and I think a lot of people say an integration isn't an integration unless it's an API, and that is false. Someone picking up an Excel or CSV of data and sticking it in a folder to automate the retrieval of it, that in essence is an integration. It's just not a very good one, and funnily enough, our industry is built on that. And I think there's a few challenges at play. One is the volume of data that our industry needs to transfer when you're looking at things like bulk transactions. Makes people think there's a very, very high risk in changing the way we do things. So they think, oh, let's keep doing what we're doing. Let's keep using the old standards. Bearing in mind APIs is, let's say, industry standard. It's not industry standard for financial advice. It's industry standard for tech, for global tech. Everyone on the corners of the earth came together and said, yeah, APIs are how we are going to start, is one of the methodologies we're going to start using to help the transfer of data. And so for our industry to kind of look at them and go, ooh, this API thing looks like a bit too much effort is a critical error, in my opinion. But I do think the industry is getting better. I think everyone recognizes, and I think the education has been working in the last couple of years, and conversations are getting a lot better. So I think what it comes down to is firms that have no API or a very bad API are starting to recognizing that and saying we need to do something about it. Now the firms that are going to be able to do something and actually continue to innovate are those ones that have an innovation culture. They have an ability to develop fast, experiment, be agile, be lean, and start to get something out there. And that's where Woven API comes in. Or Woven Advice is that we will be able to work and help businesses experiment on that, work lean, so that they don't need to have a full all singing and all dancing set of APIs that does everything necessary. They can start small. They can start to bridge that gap in the industry and get out there.
I like how, as a founder, you are very, very nice for a founder of a tech company dealing in this industry. I will tell you my own experience, and you can tell me to shove it, right? But I'll tell you my own experience. My experience when I founded Timeline in 2018 thereabouts, the intention was that we were going to integrate with back office systems. By that, back office systems, I don't, if you can call them CRMs, but I'll use the industry term, back office systems, platforms, what else? We even envisaged the idea of integrating to other advice tools. By that, I mean, risk profiling. Some people suggested in the early days that we consider integrating with cash flow modeling. You'll see where I'm going with this. But even, portfolio analytics tools.
Mm-hmm.
So naively, I thought, yeah, let's go, let's do this, and we raised our seed round at the time. Probably, I think it was, I don't know, 1.7 million pounds. And over the subsequent year, over the subsequent 12 months, we dedicated a lot of our energy and resources to integrating with platforms, and back office systems to start with. Well, when that process started, I had some air. Do you see any air now? I have no air left. At the end of a year long process,
Yeah.
I fundamentally gave up. When I say gave up, on the idea of integrating in the way that we want to with all these providers in the industry. So don't get me wrong. Today, we have what you will call integrations with 16 different platforms, but only I'm trying to think, 2 or 3 of those are API-led integrations, right? Based on API-based integrations. The rest are kind of CSV, the good old-fashioned SML, XML files. As you said, you can say that that's not integration. That's what I would say. I would say, well, that's not really integration. You're right. It is integration because you can get data to flow, but it's not efficient. I don't really think that it's a basis for a sustainable model. And I have to say that I completely agree with you that the fundamental problem in financial advice space is the disaggregation of data, client data all over the place, but I am not sure I buy the idea that even a middleware can solve this, because if you have 80% of providers don't have a functional API that you can use to integrate. We looked at some of these middlewares in the industry, or like things like Origo Integration Hub. Yes, I mentioned their name. They can come and get me. There's one others that I'm trying to remember. We looked at all these things, and at the time, they weren't really usable. They weren't really in the usable form because you're still relying on the underlying provider to supply the data to you somewhere that we can then go and get. So far, I remember looking at some of the roadmap, and they said to me, by 2023, we would have this link. And I'm sitting there thinking, if we wait for this to happen in 2023, we will be dead. And 2023 has come and nearly gone. The integration is not there. My point is that, and so we went on a slightly different, actually a very different journey, which is to actually try to build a lot of the client journey in-house, fact find, risk profile. We went down the route of building our own full-blown cash flow modeling tool. We went down the route of building our own investment analytics tools. Now, as I said, we still have to plug in data to third-party platforms. But it's in my view, the way the entire industry is stacked up right now, I don't really believe that providers, you can, by being nice to them, persuade CEOs of large platforms and providers to start building APIs. But you're a far more optimistic and much younger person.
I'm gonna go cry now. No, joking. I actually, there's so obviously so much that, I'd love to talk with you about, and that experience and thoughts of that. But I think, one of the things that come to mind, almost in response, is that I actually I started trying to work on this problem in 2019, and I almost stumbled on trying to get wealth managers to buy into the vision, let alone the platforms and the providers. When I first started this journey in 18 months ago, again, I didn't. Wealth managers were great. They were on board. They understood it. Sorry, and platform providers were, couldn't really get much there. Now, the conversations I have had in 2023 are very different. And I'm excited by it. And yes, I'm definitely optimistic, but I won't just say it's about me being nice to them. They're actually being nice to me, and they're being nice to everyone else, and they are so different. The conversations I'm having this year compared to last year, let alone 2019, are so different. And I have to stay optimistic and positive that they're the beginning of that change. I'm going to not go off and cry and just really suggest that you're wrong in that sense, because I need to be right. But no, I think there is a shift, there is a movement. I have concerns about the pace in which everyone will be able to innovate and change, but being nice to each other is definitely part of my style. And I think this is about building a network, and so whatever we need to do to help bring everyone on the journey, we will. And that probably brings me to the next point, which is about companies doing what they do best. And I think that's another challenge with a lot of businesses in building integrations, is that they're really good at building let's say a cash flow model and a absolutely phenomenal chart that has all of the rules that you need, and instant responses. That's a different skill set to building an API and building a really, really robust data infrastructure within your business. Not every technology provider is going to be the best at their integration architecture. And so we want to help every business to get there. We want to provide a best in class. We want to provide that guide to help businesses succeed. And we will do that for the platform providers, and we'll do that for technology providers, and we'll do that for back offices, because we only win when everyone's winning in this sense.
Wonderful. I like the positivity. I think, as an entrepreneur, absolutely, as an entrepreneur, the only thing you can be is be positive. And, I think you got something special, if the business model works, which is that you get platforms, I'm going to say legacy platforms, to pay you to build APIs and integrations for them. And you get wealth managers and wealth managers to also pay you to access that integration. It's a win-win-win, as a business model. At least that's the way I'm thinking about it.
Yeah, and I think, you look at how much money is in the industry and how much of a spotlight there is on things like AI. Everyone sees AI as the golden prize to speed up everything in their business, and this is not just in terms of being able to provide automated advice, but every business, all the platform providers are looking at how they can use AI. For example, what we're looking at, how can we use AI to automate data mapping between different integrations? AI is absolutely everywhere, but AI requires quality data. Quality data probably requires AI to get there, but there is a prize. There is a prize for solving this problem, and a prize for advice firms, and a prize for everyone.
Yeah, that's a question I was going to ask you about, how you see AI impacting what financial advisors do, or improving, efficiencies, the way we do things within within advice firms. But you touched on the nerve of what I've told every time I've been asked about AI, which is, my question is, AI needs data. You need data. Well, somebody needs to train the model, and then of course you need to feed it with the right data. And so what are your thoughts in terms of where we are in that process of actually being able to improve efficiencies within advice businesses with AI?
Yeah, I mean, so if we look at, before this recent wave of Gen AI, we've got, two examples that come to mind. One is the robo advice. Do we say experiment or journey? And robo advice shows, without it being a complete Gen AI experience, it is an automated service, and so there's a lot of different AI processes and machine learning that goes in to provide the algorithms to create advice for clients without having an advisor in the loop. Now, that's proven, that was done. And what that showed was that, yes, we can automate advice, but no, clients don't necessarily want that. So, they were solving a problem, but not necessarily the right problem. Now, we then jump over to an example that, is actually, there's a lot of content about it, so I'd really encourage anyone to look it up. But Morgan Stanley's experience with AI tools. And they started working on, I can't remember the name, next best something, a tool that would enable advisors to understand what the next best step was for their clients, and to start to use automation to do that. And it started out as a very much not AI, kind of a rules-based engine that said, based on the data we've got, if this happens, this is the most likely next step that you should be advising your clients on. And slowly over time, that iterated to become smarter and smarter with more and more AI involved. And they say that, I think it was in the first few months of the year of 2020, when COVID happened, the tool was used something like 11 million times by financial advisors, because they were inundated with queries and requests from clients to help them out in that financially stressful time. And I think, again, this is before Gen AI. This is a phenomenal example of how AI was enabled advisors to be able to help their clients run their operations faster so that they could help more people at that time. Without going into the specifics of that is an experiment that showed that a company that had a vision around AI and around automation, and built that over a number of years, focusing on their data first, because that is what you have to do. You cannot just come in with, exactly as you said, you need to feed the data to be able to get the results. You can't expect something to magic up the answer when it comes to financial advice. And so what I see is that we need to pull together here. We need to work together so that we can improve the data landscape, because there is not enough data. As much as we like to say there's so much data in financial advice, but in the UK, there is not enough data to be able to start to teach these models what needs to be done for all scenarios of financial advice. So congrats, financial advisors will stay in the loop. But to be able to start to automate better, we need to start to fix this data problem, and we need to start to pull together. And we really hope that Woven Advice will be able to help on that journey, in unifying that data model for the industry.
Wonderful, wonderful stuff, Nicky. Thank you for your thoughts. Thank you for your wisdom. Can I just ask you, and do you have any parting words that you want to say to our listeners? If financial advisors listening to this, what should they be doing? What steps can they start to take in their business to lay the foundation for the right data and take their business to the next level?
I personally like to help businesses on, understanding transformation, and, improving their businesses naturally, given my experience. One of the things that I harp on about is that you can't start transformation project without goals. without understanding what you're trying to achieve. Perhaps that's a North Star or something really, really specific. Or a holistic transformation that you're trying to achieve to completely transform your practice. But understand what those goals are and those objectives, and make them SMART. We call them in capitals, so specific, measurable, actual numbers that you can say, I want to increase my client bank from this number to this number in this certain period of time. So that you can track your progress and your success, and always be able to center back to why you're doing it and what you're doing. The piece I'm talking about around data cleansing and being intimately involved with your data is just part of that step. It is just one of the actions that most firms should be doing if they're not already. But really understanding the purpose of that transformation. Have a deep look into what it is your business is trying to achieve. And then finding the steps to get there are always achievable.
Wonderful. And your paper, the next version of your Unlocking the Power of Advice Tech, when is that out? Where can we find it? Where can we find more about you?
We will be getting our next Advice Tech map out early in the new year. Along with some services to help advisors find tech that they're looking for, so not just a lovely PDF. And we will be providing some great content on integrations and APIs that may or may not be interesting to advisors, but part of our nice strategy to get everyone on board in the industry. But I welcome anyone to, we love hearing about different challenges with data portability, whether it's integrations or data cleansing. So we encourage anyone to reach out and come chat to me.
Wonderful stuff. Nicky Sevel, thank you very much for your time, for your wisdom, and for the incredible work you do. Thank you.
And thank you for having me here, Abraham. It's lovely to chat.
That's a wrap on today's show. Massive thanks to my production crew, especially Jake Osha, Melissa Canham, and the entire team. And of course, to our sponsor, Timeline, the market-leading provider of integrated planning technology and model portfolio service to advisors. I do hope you've enjoyed today's show. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us your review there. Until next time, goodbye.